In the heart of ancient Rome, beneath the glory of triumphal arches and the roar of the Senate, another marketplace thrived. It had no monuments, no honor. It was the slave market. Here, human beings were bought and sold like cattle. And among them, one group endured a fate so disturbing it was rarely written about and almost erased from memory. Enslaved boys, trafficked not for war or labor, but for the private refinement of Rome's elite. They were called delicati, favored youths chosen for beauty, elegance, and obedience. Auctions unfolded in places like the Forum Boarium near the Tiber River. Boys were paraded on wooden platforms, their age, origin, and attributes written on placards hung from their necks. They came from Greece, Thrace, Syria, Phrygia, provinces stripped bare by Roman conquest. Some were prisoners of war. Others were sold by families who hoped poverty might be eased by sacrifice. Juvenal, Rome's satirist, mocked this cruelty when he wrote that a curly-haired boy costs more than a farm. His words cut through the illusion of grandeur. Rome traded children as easily as cattle or grain. Archaeological finds confirm this economy. Slave collars, iron bands inscribed with messages like, "Hold me lest I flee and return me to my master," have been unearthed around Rome. Though many were worn by adult slaves, the existence of child-sized versions shows the horror extended even to the young. Once purchased, the life of a delicatus became one of constant oversight and control. Their days were consumed by discipline: how to walk, how to speak, how to smile. In elite villas, they poured wine at banquets, groomed their masters, entertained with music or poetry. To Rome's aristocracy, they were not children. They were living ornaments, tokens of elegance. Luxury wrapped them like a prison. They slept on golden couches, wore silken tunics, bathed in marble pools. Yet every gesture was controlled, every moment surveilled. Rome did not hide this system. It flaunted it. Ownership of such boys was a marker of prestige, woven into the empire's luxury economy. For the most prized, life grew even darker. Those drawn into the emperor's household faced a fate beyond slavery. Eunuchs, spadones, were forced into service in the Palatine Palace. Their altered bodies symbolized total dependence, stripping them of masculinity, lineage, and choice. Though the Lex Cornelia banned castration, enforcement was inconsistent. For the wealthy, the law bent easily. Boys from Cappadocia, Galatia, and Syria were brought to Rome for this purpose, their futures violently rewritten. Later sources describe the brutal methods: crude knives, heated irons, crushing stones. Many boys died from infection or blood loss. Those who survived were trapped in lifelong subservience. Roman writers sneered at eunuchs as effeminate and foreign. Yet the emperors filled their courts with them, hypocrisy draped in purple robes. Within the imperial palace, boys were absorbed into a world of ritual, performance, and silence. The most infamous case is Sporus. According to Suetonius, Emperor Nero had him altered, dressed him as a woman, and married him in a public ceremony, renaming him Sabina after his dead wife. Sporus became a grotesque symbol of control, paraded beside Nero in public as both trophy and humiliation. But Sporus was not unique. Sources mention others, pueri delicati, trained in refined arts, tasked with reciting poetry, playing music, even entertaining in bathhouses. Their beauty was praised, their humanity erased. Poets like Martial and Catullus reference them in verse, sometimes lustfully, sometimes with mockery, but rarely with sympathy. To Rome, they were spectacle. Life in the palace was perilous. Favor could evaporate in an instant. A boy who lost his master's approval could be beaten, sold, imprisoned, or killed. Suetonius wrote of Tiberius' villa at Capri, shrouded in rumors of unspeakable abuse. Even if exaggerated by politics, the consistency of reports across sources suggests disturbing truths. To live near the emperor was to live near unimaginable power, and yet to be utterly powerless. What makes their story especially tragic is the paradox of high visibility and complete voicelessness. They reclined in marble halls, dressed in silk, their every gesture admired, yet they had no identity of their own. Their names are rarely recorded, their voices absent from history. They were displayed as proof of Rome's wealth, refinement, and taste, yet remained enslaved, controlled, and silenced. The empire that claimed to value law, dignity, and order built part of its splendor on the exploitation of children. Rome was not alone. Other cultures used eunuchs and enslaved youths. Persian courts employed them as gatekeepers of the royal harem, and Byzantium later adopted similar practices. But Rome's use was unique in its hypocrisy. It publicly scorned eunuchs as foreign corruption, even as it quietly filled its palaces with them. In Greece, boys were trained as pages or companions, often romanticized in art. Rome twisted this legacy into a harsher form. Property first, human never. The commerce in enslaved boys was more than cruelty. It was a mirror of Rome itself. An empire that draped power in marble and gold while hiding violence in shadows. Through forced obedience, castration, and ritual display, Rome preserved its hierarchies. It called domination refinement and cruelty elegance. Archaeology preserves their silence, the iron slave collars, the inscriptions, the scattered mentions in verse. History remembers emperors and senators, but not the boys who poured their wine, combed their hair, or suffered in their private halls. Their voices are gone, but their absence forces us to see Rome more clearly, not just as the empire of law and order, but as a civilization built on human sacrifice, the sacrifice of the most vulnerable.